Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're taking a completely different approach to history. Instead of focusing on, say, presidents or generals, we're actually going to use the genealogical records, old photographs, and personal memoirs of two totally everyday people, Lyle and Emily Carringer. And through their lives, we're going to witness the sheer transformation of the United States across the 20th century. I mean, it's a wild journey from horse-drawn carriages all the way to the modern age, entirely seen through the lens of one family's incredible everyday life out in San Diego, California. So we're kicking off our story with this absolutely beautiful piece of advice. This was given to an 18-year-old Emily by her mother, Georgiana, right on her wedding day back in 1918. And I just love this quote because it sets the absolute perfect tone for our entire explainer today. Because as you'll see, the Carringers didn't just tend to physical gardens, even though, spoiler alert, they were legendary for those. They tended to their marriage, their careers, and their family with this quiet, persistent kind of dedication that honestly built a breathtaking legacy over a lifetime. Section 1. Two different worlds. Let's actually look at the incredibly different worlds these two were born into before fate eventually brought them together. The contrast here is just striking. So Lyle was born in 1891 into this quiet, dusty frontier town in Southern California. We're talking dirt streets where you could literally walk to the edge of town in minutes, and the loudest sound at night was just horses' hooves. Now, Emily, on the other hand, was born 8 years later in 1899, and she spent her early years right in the thick of the smoke and noise of a booming, progressive-era Chicago, a city that was rapidly industrializing and rebuilding itself after the Great Fire. Two completely different universes. And just to really put Lyle's frontier beginnings into perspective for a second, 17,000. When Lyle was born, the entire county of San Diego had fewer than 17,000 residents. It is almost unimaginable today. Lyle was the cherished, only surviving child of his parents, growing up riding those early trolley cars and watching his sleepy little town just slowly begin to wake up. Section 2. Meeting at Marston's. It is absolutely fascinating how massive global events and intensely personal ones can collide to bring people together, isn't it? So Emily's family makes this massive cross-country move to San Diego in 1911, looking for new opportunities. But then, terrible tragedy strikes in 1916. Emily's father took a fatal fall down the stairs, and overnight this 16-year-old girl is forced to drop out of high school and get a job just to support her widowed mother. She ends up finding work downtown at Marston's department store. And it was right there, bustling between the aisles, that she meets Lyle. He was working there too, while at the same time serving in the Marine Corps Reserves, getting ready for a potential World War I deployment. So right in the middle of all this crazy wartime uncertainty, they just fall deeply in love. The local San Diego Union newspaper even wrote that their wedding was very quiet and came as a complete surprise to their friends. And, because of wartime rationing and just the overall solemn vibe of the era, Emily didn't go out and get a fancy white gown. Instead, she wore this beautiful, simple blue silk suit paired with a large white hat. Section 3. Building on Fern Street. All right, as this young couple starts building their foundation in the bustling 1920s, the anchor of their American dream really comes down to this incredibly specific number, $21.10. That was the monthly mortgage payment for the house they built on Fern Street in San Diego in 1920. With a loan from Lyle's parents, they built this home for themselves, for Emily's widowed mother who moved in with them, and for their brand new baby daughter, Betty. Obviously, that was a pretty significant chunk of change back then, but it secured their own little piece of the world, which would basically become the canvas for their entire life's work. And man, what a canvas it was. Emily had this unreal talent as a horticulturist, and together they transformed their property into what people called a legendary outdoor living room. We are not just talking about a couple of flower beds here. They literally built 4 distinct fish pools where goldfish would playfully splash right up onto the grass. They built a lath house for entertaining and, get this, a heated glass annex stuffed with tropical fish, like paradise fish and guppies, swimming around in these little grassy water jungles. It was so spectacular that it actually got a massive feature spread in the local newspaper in 1935. Section 4. The Changing Times. Now, as the Roaring '20s crash into the Great Depression and then eventually World War II, the Carringers kept up this steady, quiet resilience that really insulated their family from all that outside chaos. A huge part of that stability, that came directly from Lyle's astonishing career at Marston's department store.
Get this, he started there in 1905 as a 14-year-old cash boy, literally running physical payments from the store clerks over to the central cashier. But through decades of just showing up, working hard, and earning respect, he moved up to mail clerk, then floor walker, and eventually became their senior accountant and auditor. He stayed with that one single employer for an unbelievable 55 years. I mean, it perfectly captures that mutual loyalty that built the American middle class back then. And you can literally see the 20th century playing out right on Lyle's desk. His daily work evolved in lockstep with the massive tech advancements of the era. He started out doing everything totally by hand, posting daily sales figures into these massive heavy-bound ledger books with a pen and ink, using those clunky manual adding machines. But by the time he wrapped up his career in the 1950s, he was using early bookkeeping machines, electric calculators, and the very dawn of mechanized retail accounting. He literally calculated his way into the modern age. But hey, it wasn't all just ledgers and numbers for Lyle. Way before the internet was even a thought, he brought the entire globe right to their doorstep in San Diego through this massive international stamp collection. He built up this huge network of pen pals, writing to fellow collectors from as far away as Australia, and even remote places like Pitcairn Island down in the South Pacific. And get this, some of those pen pals actually traveled all the way to San Diego to visit them. Their mailbox basically became a daily window to the rest of the world. Section 5, the Point Loma Paradise. So, jumping ahead into their golden years, the post-war boom of the 1950s arrives, and with it comes a pretty bold real estate move and a beautifully growing family. Their daughter Betty had grown up, finished college, became a teacher, and got married in 1942. And with grandsons entering the picture, Lyle and Emily decide to make a huge leap in 1950. They sold their beloved Fern Street house and those amazing gardens, and they bought this triangular piece of land overlooking the bay for $3,750. And that is where they decided to build their ultimate retirement dream home. And what they built at 825 Harborview Place was, well, it was nothing short of a sanctuary. It was a custom 2-bedroom redwood house with these jaw-dropping panoramic views of San Diego Bay. Emily, who actually went on to become a master judge for the National Council of State Gardens Club, she completely terraced the hillside and planted these stunning new fruit trees and gardens. But honestly, the true joy of that house was their 3 grandsons, Randy, Stanley, and Scott. The boys made the most priceless memories there, especially on Christmas Eves, falling asleep right by the fireplace, trying their hardest to wait up for Santa. Section 6, Legacy of Quiet Glory. As we kind of wrap up this explainer, we really have to reflect on what this nearly century-long journey actually means. And this little excerpt from a family poem just hits the nail on the head. Lyle and Emily didn't invent some world-changing product, they didn't run for office, and you are definitely not going to find their names in a standard history textbook. But their story proves absolutely beyond a shadow of a doubt that you do not need fame or fortune to leave a profound, lasting mark on the world. True glory is just found in a lifetime of steady love, honest everyday work, taking care of your people, and, taking the time to plant beautiful gardens for other people to enjoy. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. Today, we live in this hyper-fast world, totally obsessed with instant gratification, viral fame, and just constantly bouncing from one thing to the next. But when you look back at Lyle's steady 55-year career, or Emily's daily, quiet devotion to her family and her flowers, it really makes you pause, doesn't it? In our modern rush for everything, everywhere, all at once, have we kind of forgotten the beautiful, quiet glory of simply tending to our own gardens? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.